Okay, guys, I'm so sorry. I stopped the video and somebody was knocking on my door, so I stopped instead of pressing pause. I just completely stopped it. So let me just start by. So I'm just gonna start from, and I'm just gonna be reading. I'm gonna start from the negative of Boston instead of having to do the whole thing. So, a native of Boston, Short spent her early life in New England and Florida before relocating to California where her father lived. Her family held that Short was an aspiring actress, although she had not known acting credits or jobs during her time in Los Angeles. She would acquire the nickname of the Black Dahlia, posthumously as newspapers of period often nicknamed particular lower crimes, determined have originated from the film noir murder mystery The Blue Dahlia, released in 1946. After they discovered her body, the Los Angeles Police Department began an extensive investigation that produced over 150 suspects but yielded no arrests. Short unsolved murder and the details surrounding had been a lasting cultural intrigue, generating various theories and public speculation. Her life and death had been the basis of numerous books and films, and her murder is frequently cited as one of the most famous unsolved murders in American history, as well as one of the oldest unsolved cases in Los Angeles County. It has likewise been credited by historians as one of the first major crimes in post-World II American to capture national attention. So let's learn about her childhood. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29th of 1924 in the Hyde Park section of Boston, Massachusetts, the third of five daughters of Cleo A Short wife Pio Masor. In 1927, the Short family briefly relocated into Portland, Maine, before settling in Medford, a suburb of Boston, that same year. Short's father built a miniature golf course until he lost most of his savings in the 1929 stock market crash. In 1930, his car was found abandoned in the Charlestown Bridge, and it was assumed that he had jumped into the Charles River. Believing her husband to be deceased, Short's mother began working as a bookkeeper to support the family. Trouble, troubled by bronchitis and asthma attacks, Short underwent lung surgery at age 15. After which doctors suggest she periodically relocated to the milder climate to prevent further respiratory problems. Short's mother sent her to spend winters in Miami, Florida with the family friends for the next 3 years, and her sophomore year she dropped out of Medford High School. In the late of 1942, Short's mother received a letter of apology from her presumed deceased husband, which revealed that he was in fact alive and had started a new life in California. In December, at age 18, Short relocated to Vallejo, California, to live with her father, whom she had not seen since age 6. At the time, he was working at the nearly Merrill Island Naval Shipyard on San Francisco Bay. Arguments between Short and her father led to her moving out on January in 1943. Short took her job at the base exchange at Camp Cook, now Vandenberg Space Force Base, near Lompoc, briefly living with the USA Army Air Force sergeant who reportedly abused her. She left Lompoc in mid of 1943 and moved to Santa Barbara, where she was arrested on September 23 of 1943 for drinking in a local bar while underage. The juvenile authorities sent her back to Massachusetts, but she returned instead to Florida, making only occasional visits to her family near Boston. While in Florida, Short met Major Matthew Michael Gordon Jr., a direct and armed Air Force officer of the 2nd Air Commanding Group who was training for deployment to the Southeast Asian theater of World War II. Short later told friends that Gordon had written to propose marriage while he was recovering from the injuries from a plane crash in India. She accepted his offer, but Gordon died in a second crash on August 10th of 1945, less than a week before the end of the war. In July of 1946, Short relocated to Los Angeles to visit Army Air Force Lieutenant Joseph Gordon Freakley, an acquaintance from Florida, who was stationed at the Naval Reserve Air Base in Long Beach. Short spent the last 6 months of her life in California, mostly in Los Angeles area. Shortly before her death, she had been working as a waitress, rent room behind the Florida Gardens nightclub in Hollywood Boulevard. She's been variously described and depicted as inspired or would be actress. According to some sources, she did in fact have inspiration to be a film star, though she had no acting jobs credits. So now we're going to get to her murder. On January 9th of 1947, Short returned to her home in Los Angeles after her brief trip to San Diego with Robert Red Marlin, a 25-year-old Mary Selman she had been dating. Millie stated that he dropped Short off at the Bellamore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles and that Short met her sister who was visiting from Boston that afternoon. But some account staff of the Bellamore recalled having seen Short using the lobby telephone. Shortly after, she was allegedly seen by patrons of the Crown Girl Cartel Lounge at 754 South Olive Street, apparently no way from the Bellamore. On the morning of January 15th of 1947, Short naked body was served in two pieces was found in a vacant lot of the west side of Southern North Avenue, midway between Coliseum Street and West 49th Street, in the neighborhood of Lehman Park. At the time, Lehman Park was largely undeveloped. Local resident Betty Bisner discovered the body approximately 10 a.m. while walking with her 3-year-old daughter. Intentionally thinking she had found a discredited store mannequin, when she realized it was a corpse, she rushed to nearly house to telephone the police. Short's severely mutilated body was completely served at the waist and drained of blood, leaving her skin pale white. Medical examiner determined that she had been dead for around 10 hours prior to the discovery, leaving her time of death either sometimes during the evening of January 14th or the early morning hours of January 15th. The body had permanently been washed by the killer. Short's face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to ears, creating an effect known as the Glasgow smile. She had several cuts on her thighs and breasts, where entire portion of flesh had been sliced away. The lower half of her body was positioned a foot away from the upper, and her intestines had been tucked nearly beneath her buttocks. The corpse had been posed with her hands over her head and her elbows bent a right angle and her legs spread apart. Upon the discovery, a crowd of passersby and reporters began to gather. Los Angeles Herald Express reported that Angie Unwood was among the first to arrive at the scene and took several photos of the corpse and crime scene. Near the body, determined located a heel print on the ground amid the tire tracks, and Salmon's sack contained the water bloody was found nearly. An autopsy of Short's body was performed on January 16th of 1947 by Franklin Newborn in the Los Angeles County Coroner. Nearly autopsy reports state that Short was 5 feet inches tall, weighed 115 pounds, and had light blue eyes, brown hair, and merely decayed teeth. There were ligatures marked on her ankles, wrists, and neck, and the irregular ligature with specific tissue loss on her right breast. Newborn also noted superficial ligurations on the right forearm, left upper arm, and the lower left side of the chest. The body had been cut completely in half by its tentacle top in the 1930s called a hemicorporectomy. Yeah, I'm not good with that. I might just write it down somewhere. The lower half of her had been removed by transitioning the lumbar spine between the second and third lumbar vertebrae, those serving in stains at the duodenum. Newborn report note very little bruising along the unconscious line, suggesting it had been performed after death. Another gaping ligation measuring 4 1/4 inches in the length ran longitudinally from the umbilicus to the supraorbital region. The ligation on each side of the face, which extended from the corners of her lips, were measured at 3 inches in the right side of the face. On the left, the skull was not fractured, but there was bruising note on the front of the right side of her scalp, which is a small amount of bleeding in the supporting space on the right side, contained with blows to the head. The cause of death was determined to be hemorrhaging from the lacerations to her face and the shock from blows to the head and face. Niebuhr noted that Short's anal canal was dilated, suggesting that she may have been raped. Samples were taken from her body, testing for the presence of sperm, but the result came back negative. Short was undefined after her fingerprints were sent to the FBI via Sun Photos device, which transmitted image by telephone and was normally used for news photographer. Short's fingerprints were on the file in her 1953 arrest. Immediately following Short indefinition, reporters from the Willing Rebel Hearts Los Angeles Examiner contacted her mother, Phoebe, in Boston and told her that her daughter had won a beauty contest. It was only after praying as much as personal information as they could from Phoebe that the reporters revealed that her daughter had in fact been murdered. The newspaper offered to pay her airfare in a combination if she would travel to Los Angeles to help with the police investigation. That was yet another plot, since the newspaper kept her away from the police and other reporters to protect its scoops. The Examiner and other hard newspapers in Los Angeles Herald Express later sensationalized the case with one article from the Examiner describing the black tailored suit Short was last seen wearing as a tight skirt and sheet blouse. The media nicknamed her the Black Dahlia, and described her as an adventuress who prowled Hollywood Boulevard. Additional newspapers report she has one published to Los Angeles Times in January 17, deemed the murder a sex fiend flaming. On January 21st of 1947, a person claimed to be Short's killer placed a phone call to the office of James Richards, the editor of the Examiner, congratulating Richards on the newspaper coverage of the case, and stated that he planned on eventually turning himself in, but not before allowing the police to pursue him further. Additionally, the caller told Richards to expect some souvenirs of Beth Short in the mail. On January 24th, a suspicious mailing envelope was discovered by the USA Postal Service worker. The envelope had been addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers, with the individual words that had been cut and pasted from the newspaper clipping. Additional, a large message. The face of the envelope read, her Dahlia belongings, later to follow. The envelope contained Short's birth certificates, business card, photographs, names written on piece of papers, and her address book with name Mark Hansen on boards on the cover. The pack had been carefully cleaned and gasoline, similarly to Short's body, which led police to suspect that the pack had been sent directly by her killer. Despite the efforts to clean the packet, several potential fingerprints were lifted from the envelope and sent to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for testing. However, the prints were compromised in transit and those could not be properly analyzed. The same day the pack was received by the senator, a handbag and a black suit shoes were reported to have been seen on top of her garbage can in an alley short distance from Norton Avenue, 2 miles from where Short's body had been discovered. The items were recovered by police, but they had also been wiped clean with gasoline, destroying any fingerprints. On March 14th, appearing suicide note scrawled in pencil on a bit of paper was found tucked in his shoes and pile of men's clothing by the ocean edge of the foot. Breeze Abbey Vincent. The note read, "To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but have not. I'm too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way of me. I couldn't help myself for that or this. Sorry, Mary." The pile of clothing was first seen by a beach caretaker, who reported discovering the John Deline lifeguard captain. Deline immediately notified Captain Lee E. Christian of West Los Angeles Police Station. The clothes included a coat and a treasures and a blue herringbone, tweeted a brown and white t-shirt with white jockey shorts, 10 socks, and 10 musicians' leisure shoes size, but 8. The clothes gave no clue about the finding of the owner. Police quickly deemed Mark Hansen the owner of the address book, Found in the packet of suspect, Henson was a wealthy local nightclub and theater owner, an acquaintance of at whose home Short had stayed with friends. And according to some source, he also confirmed that the purse, shoes, and discovery in the alley were in fact Short's. Anna Torrance, Short's friend and roommate, told investigators that Short had recently rejected sexual events from Hans and suggests as a potential cause of him to kill her. However, he was cleared of suspicions in the case. In addition, for Hans, Los Angeles police interviewed over 150 men in the ensuing weeks from whom they believed to be potential suspects. Mainly, who had one of the last people to see Short alive was also investigated but was cleared of suspicion after passing numerous polygraph examinations. Police also interviewed several persons found lists in Henson's address book, including Martin Lewis, who had been an acquaintance of Short's, who was able to provide an alibi for date of Short murder as he was in Portland, Oregon, visiting his father-in-law for he was dying of kidney failure. A total of 750 investigators from the LAPD and other departments worked into this case during his interview stage, including 400 sheriff deputies and 250 California State Patrol officers. Various locations were searched for potential evidence, including storm drains throughout the Los Angeles, abundant stashes, and various sites along the Los Angeles River. But the search yielded no further evidence. City Councilman Lord G. Davis posted a $10,000 reward for information and leading police to Short killer. After the announcement of the reward, various persons come forward with confessions, most of which police dismissed as false. Several of false confessions were charged with obstruction of justice. In January 26, another letter was received by the examiner, the name handwritten, which read, "Here it is, turning Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun at the police Black Dahlia adventure." The letter also named the location at which the suspect killer would turn himself in. Police waited at the location in the morning of January 29th, but the alleged killer did not appear. Instead, at 1 p.m., the examiner office received another cut-and-paste letter, which read, "I have changed my mind. You have not given me a square deal. Dahlia killing was justified." The graphic nature of the crime in the sequence letters received by the examiner had resulted in a media frenzy surrounding Short's murder. Both local and national publications covered this story heavily, many of which repaying sensationalization reports suggesting that Short had been tortured for hours prior to her death. The information, however, was false. Yet police allowed the reporters to circulate so as to conceal Short's true cause of death. Several homage from the public. Further reports about Short's personal life were publicized, including details about her alleged declining of Henson's romantic events. Additionally, a stripper who was acquaintance of Short told police that she liked to get guys work up over her, but she leave them hanging dry. They led some reports and detectives looked into the possibility that Short was sleeping and being questioned and employs patrons of gay bars in Los Angeles. That claim, however, remained unsubstantiated. The Hearst Press also received several letters from the purported killer, again made with the cut paste clinking on one of which read, "I will give up on a Dahlia killing if I get 10 years. Don't try to find me." On February 1st, the Los Angeles Daily News reported that the case had run into stone wall. With no leads for investigation to pursue, the examiner continued to run stories on the murder in the investigation, which was front page news for 35 days into following discovery of the body. When interviewed, lead investigation Captain Jack Dunst told the press that he believed Short murder had taken place in a remote building or shake on the outskirts of Los Angeles, and her body transferred into the city where it was disposed of. Based on the priest cuts in the serration of Short corpse, the LAPD looked into the possibility that the murder had been a surgeon, doctor, or someone with medical knowledge. In mid-February of 1947, the LAPD served warrant to University of Southern California Medical School, which was located near the site where Short's body had been discovered. Requesting a complete list of program students, the university agreed to long as the students' identities remained private. Background checks were conducted but yielded no results. By the spring of 1947, short murder had become a cold case. With a few new leads, Sergeant Finns Brown, one of the lead detectives on the case, blamed the press for compromising the investigation throughout the report, promoting of details and unfair reporting. In September 1949, grand jury convincing to discuss inconsistency in the LAPD homicide into base in their failure to solve numerous murders, especially those of women and children in the past several years. Short being one of them. In the aftermath of the grand jury, further investigation was done in Short's past, with the detectives tracing her movement between Massachusetts, California, and Florida, and also interviewed people who known her in Texas, New Orleans. However, the interview yielded no useful information in the murders. The notoriety of Short's murder has sprung as large number of confessions over the years, many of which had been deemed false during the intently investigation into her murder. Police received a total of 60 confessions, most made by men. Since that time, over 500 people have confessed to the crime, and some who had not even born at the time of her death. Sergeant John P. St. John, detective who worked in the case until his retirement, stated, "It is amazing how many people offer up relatives as the killer." In 2003, Raphael Elsel, one of the original detectives on the case, told the Times that he believed he had interviewed Short killer, a man who had been seen with her sitting parked near the vacant lot where her body was discovered in the early morning hours of January 15th of 1947. A neighbor driven by that day stopped to dispose of a bag of lawn clippings in the vacant lot when he saw a parked sedan, alleged with its right rear door open. The driver of the sedan was standing in the lot. He arrived permanently shattered, in the owner of the sedan, who approached his car and peered in the window before turning to the sedan and drive away. The owner of the sedan was followed into a local restaurant where he worked, but immediately cleared off suspicious. Suspect remaining under discussions by various authors and experts, including Dr. named Walter Bailey, proposed by the former Times copy editor Larry Hinshin, Times publisher Norma Chandler, who biographer Donna Wolf claims inspired Short, Lee Stilling, Joseph Addins, and there's just so many people that I'm not going to go through the whole list, but there's other people that are, a lot of people are suspect. George Holt Jr. was a suspect. Like the others, he was never formally charged with the crime. He came into wider attention as a suspect after his death, when he was accused by his son, Los Angeles homicide detective Steve Holt, of killing Short and committing several additional murders. Prior to the Dahlia case, he was also a suspect in the death of his secretary Ruth, speculating but was not charged, and was accused of raping his own daughter. Charmed but acquitted, he fled the country several times and spent 1950s to 1990 in the Philippines. So the theories: several crimes author as well as Cleveland detective Peter Major had suspect a link between Short murder and Cleveland torture murders, which took place in Cleveland, Ohio between 1934 and 1938. As part of their investigation into another murders that took place before and after the Short killing, the original LAPD investigators studied the torture murders in 1947, but later disconnected any relationship between the two cases. In 1980, new evidence implicated a former torture murder suspect, Jack Anderson Wilson, was investigated by detectives John in relation to Short's murder. He claimed he was close to arresting Wilson to Short's murder, but the Wilson died on a fire on February 4th of 1982. The possible connection between Short's murder and the torture murder received renewed media attention when it was profiled on the NBC series Unsolved Mystery in 1982, in which Elliot Ness biographer Oscar Freyd suggests Ness knew the identity of the killer responsible for both cases. In the February 10th of 1947 murder of Jean French, Los Angeles was also considered by the media and detected as possible being connected to Short killing. French's body was discovered in West Los Angeles in Grandview Boulevard, nude and badly beaten. Writing on her stomach in lipstick would appear to say, "Fuck you." BD and the letters TEX. Below, the Hurling Express covered the story heavily and drew permission to the short murder less than a month prior, assuming the details BD to stand for Black Dahlia. According to historian John Lewis, however, the screening actually read PD, ostensibly standing for Police Department. Criminal authors such as Stephen Halt and William Ristrom have suggested to link between the short murder and the 1946 murder and dismemberment of a 6-year-old Susan Den in Chicago, Illinois. Captain Dewan of the LAPD stated publicly that he believed the Black Dahlia and the Chicago lipstick murders were likely connected. Among the evidence, citizens in the fact that Shore's body was found on North Avenue, 3 blocks west of the Dagen Boulevard, Dagen being the last name of the girl from Chicago. There were also striking similarities between the handwriting on the Damon ransom note and the Black Dahlia adventure. Both texts used combination capitals and small letters, and both notes contain similar mishapen letter P and have one word that match exactly. Convicted serial killer William Harris served life in prison for Dagen's murder, intentionally arrested at 17 for breaking into the residence close to that of Dagen. Harris claimed he was tortured by police, forced to confess, and made a scapegoat for the murder. After being taken from the medical infirmary at Dixon Correctional Center on February 26, 2012, for health problems, Harris died in the University of Illinois Medical Center in March 5th of 1912 at age 83. According to Stephen Hawk, has implied his father George, a short killer citizen, has father training as a surgeon, a circumstantial evidence. In 2003, it was revealed in the notes from the 1949 grand jury report that investigator had went tape Holt's home and obtained record conversation of him with an identity visitor saying, "Suspicious I killed the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary because she's dead. They thought there was something fishy. Anyway, now, may I have figured it out? Kill her? Maybe I did. Kill my secretary." In 1991, Jessie Knowlton, a woman who was 10 years old at the time of Shore's murder, claimed that she witnessed her father, George Collington, beat Shore to death with a clam hammer in the detached garage of her family's home in Westheimer. She also published a book titled Daddy Was the Black Dahlia Killer in 1995, in which she made additional claims that her father sexually molested her. The book was commended a trash by Clinton's stepsister, Jolene Embers, in 2004, who stated she believed it, but it wasn't reality. I know because I lived with her father for 16 years. Additional detectives state John told the Times that Knowlton claims were not consistent with the facts of the case. John Glimmer, in 1994, book Sever the True Story of the Black Dahlia Murder, suggests a possible connection between Short murder and that of a Georgetta Bleffer, a society who was strangled to death in West Hollywood home in 1994. Glimmer suggests that Short employment the Hollywood sentence where Benford also worked a host could be a potential kinetic indication between the two women. However, the claim that Short ever worked at the Hollywood canteen had been disputed by others such as the retired Times copy editor Larry Haysher. In 2017, book Black Dahlia Red Rose by P.O. Idwell focused on Lesia DeLanne, a bellhopper who was former mortician, assisting his associates Mark Hens and Jeff Carners, and Sergeant Vince Brown, a lead detective who had links to Ansons and was legally a corporate. Idwell points that Shore was murdered because she knew too much about the men's involvement in the shamed for robbing hotels. She further suggests that Shore was killed at the Aster Motel in Los Angeles, where the owners report finding one of their rooms covered in blood. In fetal matter, in the morning Shore's body was found. The examiner stated in 1949 that the LA police chief William A. Morton denied that the Flower Street Motel had anything to do with the case, although its regular newspaper, the Los Angeles Herald, claimed that the murder took place there. Idwell was working on a television documentary and received additional edition of her book was due to be released in the autumn of 2018. In 2000, Buzz Williams, a retired detective with the Long Beach Police Department, wrote in an article for the LBPD newsletter, The Rap Sheet in Short Murder. Williams' father, Richard F. Williams, and his friend, Con Keller, were both members of the LA Gangster Squad investigating the case. Williams, sir, believed that Dahlia was the killer, and that when Dahlia returned to his home state of Oklahoma, he was able to avoid extradition to California because his ex-wife, Georgia Stevenson, was second cousin Government Ailey Stephen II of Illinois, who conducted the government of Oklahoma in Dahlia's behalf. Keller believed Hans was the killer, as he had studied at a surgical school in Sweden and had thrown elevator parties attended by the promoted of LAPD officials. Williams' article says that Dahlia sued the LAPD for $3 million, but the suit was dropped. Heron should disavow the claim that Dahlia was cleared by the police after excessive investigation, and the district attorney files possibility placed him in Francisco, who when Short was killed. Heronish claimed that there was no LAPD cover-up, and that Dahlia did in fact receive a financial settlement from the city of Los Angeles, but has not produced created evidence to prove this. So that is the crazy case of the Black Dahlia. Let me tell you guys, this story has been going like ups and down. I think it had to be a doctor. It had to be. I'm sorry. I think it was a doctor who killed her. I'm getting cold because that was a long video. I think a doctor did kill her, because like I said, the way her body was cut and no blood, like there was no blood near her, like nothing, nothing, like there was no blood, like she was dry from blood. I don't know if there's a serial killer out there that knows how to do that. Maybe, who knows? I may be wrong. You never know. These serial killers are smart. But I think it was a doctor. Now, do I think that it's a doctor of the guy that is blaming his dad? I don't know. I want to say yes, but then I don't know. I mean, you never know. I mean, he killed his secretary. Why would you kill your secretary? I don't know, guys. This case, would it ever be solved? I don't know. I mean, probably if they they didn't really. I don't think they knew that if. I didn't think they knew. Sorry. I don't think they knew that DNA would have been this advanced today as it was back then. But let me know what y'all think, guys. I'll be back on Friday with the new children case, a missing children case. Thank you so much. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that bell. I am trying to reach 100 before the end of this month. This is my birthday month. My birthday is February the 13th. Yes, I was born before Valentine's, so that would be the best gift ever. Peace.